Hello, everyone, and I hope you're all doing well wherever you are. And yeah, we're just going to have some fun here. So, welcome to my very first live stream. So, I'm quite excited to be doing this. And as I have said, it's my very first one. So, who knows what's going to happen? So, hopefully, everything works out well. So, if you are joining me live, please feel free to say hi. Maybe let me know what part of the world you're from. My name is Owen Chimuka, and I'm from Zimbabwe, but I currently live in Zambia. So I'm at the south of Africa. So it would be nice to say hi and to find out where you're from. So what I'm going to share with you guys today is really something that I've been covering in my 90-day jazz coaching program. And for now, the focus is really on piano players, but I think anyone who plays any instrument could really benefit from attending this program. So we are on day 62 and moving on strong. So we learn in this program how to improvise. So we learn real improvisation, which means you are creating your own ideas, your own original ideas, maybe inspired by other people, but you learn how to speak the language of jazz. So that's quite important. And then the other thing that we cover in our 90-day program is we build strong ears. So we take away the music temporarily so that you can really listen, absorb a lot of things so that you can speak this language of jazz fluently and you actually begin to do what we call playing your instrument. Okay. So the other thing we cover is harmony, so that instead of us just learning pieces, we want to really understand how these pieces are put together. So I train you to think like a composer, because improvisation is really composing on the spot. So if you understand the basic building blocks of songs, you begin to see how similar some of these songs are to each other, and therefore things that you learn in one song could be applied to another song. Okay, so we really dig into harmony and discuss how songs are put together so that you learn these faster. You might find that in one day you could learn tons of songs. So that's very important. And then another very important thing that we cover in this program is practicing with structure. So I've noticed that a lot of the people that join my program are usually adults who usually have been playing for a period of time, so they know their chords, they know scales, they even know some jazz tunes, um, but they really struggle to know exactly what to practice so that they begin to see results in their playing and to really see change in their playing. Okay, so uh, the structure that I give you in the 90-day program is really, really important. So when I say structure, I'm talking about a guided daily practice session. So what that means is on Monday, I will tell you exactly what to practice on Monday, and then on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, for every day of these 90 days. And you can adapt this daily guided practice session to suit the length of time that you actually have available to practice. Because again, with adults, a lot of them are working. Some moms have, obviously, if they're mom, so they've got kids at home, so they're looking after them. So it's quite a busy life that they've got. So when they've got 20 minutes or 30 minutes to spare, they want to make sure that they use that wisely instead of just sitting and noodling. So the guided practice that I give you in the 90-day program, very important. So I'll be sharing more details about this 90-day program uh, at a workshop which I'm hosting online. And I'm hosting this workshop on Saturday, the 2nd of August. So please feel free to check that out. Okay. So in in this session, we will be addressing a topic that I covered on Saturday, which is maybe 5 days ago or something like that, because today is Thursday. So on Saturday, this is what I covered in the 90-day program. I'm only scratching the surface of this topic. And obviously, we'll cover it again in the next program, which starts in September. I'll tell you all about that a little bit later. But the topic that we've been working on is rhythm. Okay, so the program is called Jazz and Improvisation Essentials. So improvisation is making up your own things on the spot, and I mean, these things are basically melodies. So we're going to be focusing on creating melodies. Uh, so a melody is basically made up of two things or two elements. So one of them is pitch, and pitch is something that I think a lot of teachers and tutorials are very good in schools, very good at focusing on this thing. So we'll tell you what scales to play, what notes to play. We'll talk about chord tones, chord scale relationships, and all that sort of stuff. But in this video, I really want to focus on rhythm, because that's the other important ingredient in pitch. I mean, in melody. And I'm actually of the opinion that rhythm is more important than pitch. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. And we're going to explore how rhythm can actually transform your solos. And before we get started, I just thought it might be a nice idea to share with you why rhythm is the real secret to great improvisation. I think all the improvisers throughout history really focus on rhythm. So I'm going to share a few quotes with you that I found from all over the place. This first one here is attributed to Miles Davis. So I'm sure he said something or something along those lines. His music and his playing certainly uh, echo this sentiment. So he says, "It's not the notes you play, it's the space between them." I love this quote, and in this lesson, I'm going to be using that quite a lot, because when you leave space in between your notes, you can really hear what you've just done, and that can really influence what you're going to do. And therefore, your story is more likely to be, well, first of all, flowing, but also making sense, and therefore enjoyable, hopefully to you first, and then to the listener. So not just enjoyable, but also understandable, because that's very important. Okay, and I'll give you two more quotes that we can just think about, because we're talking about why rhythm is so important. It's the real secret to great improvisation. So great rhythm equals great feel. Now, I'm not sure who said this, but I agree 100%. So great rhythm equals great feel, even with simple notes. So it's not about playing a zillion notes. When you play great rhythm, it feels great. Everyone enjoys. Okay, so that's good. And I love this one, that you don't need more theory, you just need more groove. That's really the most important thing. Okay, so I know in education we love giving information, but in today's lesson, less information, more rhythm, therefore more groove. We just want the music to feel good. Now, when we're practicing rhythm, I like to practice in three different musical contexts, and I'll be referring to these quite a lot. So and these contexts I use to practice almost any topic. So not just rhythm, but any topic I like to practice in these three musical contexts. So the first context that I'll practice in is I'll practice over one chord. So for example, over a C major chord, hopefully you guys can also see the notes on my keyboard, which are lighting up at the bottom of the screen there. Okay, so I like to practice over one chord, so I might play several things. So everything I played there, everything that I made up there was on one chord. Okay, so we're gonna talk about that in detail just now. So I like to practice over one chord, and then I like to build. So one chord I think is maybe we can even consider that the first level of improvising, and then I also like to practice over a chord progression. And for today's lesson or today's video, the chord progression that I'm going to use is a 2-5-1 progression. So I could have practiced over a 5-1. I could have practiced over a turnaround like 1-6 2-5-1 or 3-6 2-5-1. Could practice over 1-4. Whatever it is that you want to work on, you can improvise over that. So for this lesson, I'm improvising over a 2-5-1 progression. That's a 2-5-1 progression. So I'm going to be playing things. Okay. So that's a 2-5-1 progression. So first I'm going to practice things over one chord, and then I'm going to practice those same ideas over a chord progression, and then finally I'm going to practice these ideas in the context of an actual jazz tune. Okay, so I'm going to play a jazz song, and for today's lesson, I'm going to use one of my favorite. And from what I've heard, I can't remember who I heard say this. It was probably Ron Carter or someone who played with Miles Davis. That every time they played, Miles would always play this particular standard first to open any show. So I love it too. It's Autumn Leaves. So you never got tired of playing it. I've never gotten tired of playing this one. It was one of the first ones that I learned. And one of the reasons I love it is it's got ingredients or building blocks that you find in other pieces. So if you master Autumn Leaves, you are well set to approach these other standards. Okay. So I like to practice in these three contexts. So here's the first thing that we are going to do with rhythm. Okay. We're basically doing two things. So this is the first one. It's improvisation, so we're really creating. So I'm going to break this first step into three smaller steps. Okay, so the first step in this first step is we're going to sing. So in your imagination, using your imagination, you are going to sing a rhythm. And this rhythm is just going to be a 1-bar rhythm in 4/4 time. So let's suppose our tempo is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So you might say in your imagination something like dee dee boo dee. Okay. So I've just sung a 1-bar rhythm. I'm going to try and remember that. Dee 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 dee. I know in one video someone asked, where do these ideas come from? Whatever comes to mind. Okay. So it's just from your imagination. So sing any 1-bar rhythm of your choice. Okay, these ideas can be inspired by anything. It could be something breaking in in the kitchen. It could be a bird singing outside. It could be the way a train moves. Anything that inspires you, because life is full of sounds. Okay, so I said dee dee ba dee da. I think and I hope that's what I said. Okay. If not, I'm now going with what I've just sung. All right. Dee, 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 dee. That's step number one. What I'll then do next is I will play that particular rhythm on any note or in any notes. So if I'm in the key of C, right? I'm playing a C chord here. I've added a sixth to it just to make it jazzier. Sometimes I might add a seventh to it. I'll see how I feel. So the rhythm was what? Dee, dee, ba, dee, da. Hopefully. So I'm going to play any note in the C major scale with that rhythm. So I might go, I actually played two notes there, but I played the rhythm that I sang in that first step. Let me try another one. In fact, let me try the same rhythm, but on a different note. So I've used one note right there. I'm going to try a different one. I'll count so that you feel the pulse. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll play another one. I can play this on any degree of the scale. I can play. I do want to mention one thing here. And because you're practicing improvisation, one of the things that's important is to not be too judgmental or to be too reactive to what you've played. So you might play a note and then maybe your first reaction is, I don't like the way that sounds. So just for the sake of practice, and for the sake of, I guess, conditioning your brain so that you go into improvisation mode, um, just accept every sound and treat it as a special thing that's just out there. Okay, so I'm going to play something which might make some people cringe. So I've played a lot of uh, the notes in the C major scale. I'm going to play this F. Let's hear what it sounds like. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It actually just doesn't sound bad at all, at least to my ears. Okay. So that's a healthy way to relate to notes. Is just to be open to the sound of each of them. So we've covered those two steps. First, you sing a rhythm, and then you play the rhythm on any note or any notes. But here's the third one. The third step is to rest. So if you remember from the quote by Miles Davis about the spaces in between the notes, those are very important. So when we play our 1 bar rhythm, what I would like us to do is to rest for 1 bar as well. So we simply won't play for another bar. So in between the phrases, we're going to rest. Okay. So I'm going to go through this three three-step process of this whole first idea, where we're just we're playing a rhythm that's in our imagination, and then playing it on our instrument. Okay, we're singing it rather, and then playing it, then resting, and then we repeat that process over and over and over. So I'm going to do this in, because remember we had three contexts that I mentioned earlier, where we're either playing over one chord or a chord progression or a jazz standard. So I'm going to start maybe just playing on one chord. Okay, I'm going to play 1 bar rhythm over one chord, rest, and then do that again. I'm going to do this. Well, C is generally easy to see because it's all the white keys. Okay, so I'm going to try that on white keys and hear what it sounds like. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Actually, you know what? I changed the rhythm there. So um, whatever rhythm comes to mind, that's what I'm going to play. So I'm not going to play the same rhythm throughout because I'm practicing creating my own rhythmic ideas. So whatever rhythm comes, I'll sing it, then I'll play it. Okay, so 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Dee be dee bum. Dee be bo. Dee dee da dee. Dee dee da dee. Da bu dee da. Dee ga dee ga dee. Da do da. Da da. Da ba da dum. Da ba da da. Okay, so all I'm doing is creating or coming up with rhythms. I'm singing them, and then whatever I sing, I'll try and play. So I was doing that over one chord. And because we are trying to build towards eventually playing a song, it's also healthy for you to be patient with yourself and to just enjoy improvising over just one chord. And in fact, I've made it so simple that not only am I doing one chord, I'm also doing one note. But you might start falling asleep if all you play is one note. So, what if you say to yourself, let me make it two notes? Okay, so any two notes of the C major scale, just one after the other. So here's first example. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Da ba dee da. Dee dee dee. Ba dee do da. Diggy dee dee dee. Da ba ba da. Dee da bu dee. Okay, so in fact, you know what? At the end there, I played three notes, but that's fine. So you can break everything down so that you're only playing with one note, and then you gradually increase the number of notes. So you can tell yourself, okay, now I'm going to do 2 notes. And then maybe you can say to yourself, let me do 3, just like I did at the end there. Um, and then you could go 4 until you get to 7, because your C major scale has got these 7 notes right here. So you don't have to play all 7. You could actually do quite well with just the 1 note. I'm actually enjoying the 1 note and sometimes the 2 notes. Okay, so let's consider this the first step in your improvisation, or in your practice of rhythm to improve your improvisation. All right. So I'm going to go to the second context now, so that I'm not just playing my rhythms on one chord. I actually want to play my rhythms on a chord progression, and we said 2-5-1. Um, I think because ultimately I will want to play Autumn Leaves in the key of B flat, aka G minor. I'm going to move my exercise so that I play using this scale. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing that I've been doing. I'm just doing it in a different key. So here's a 2-5-1 in the key of B flat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. For this exercise, I'm going to play the one chord for 2 bars, or for 2 measures. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Now I'm going to go through the same process. I'm going to sing a 1 bar rhythm, and I'll play it on my instrument using any of these notes. I'll actually start off simple, 1 note at a time, maybe 2, maybe 3, who knows? I'll see how it goes. Okay. So same idea, but over a 2-5-1 progression in the key of B flat. Okay, so here goes nothing. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. D D D. Da ba da da da. D ba dee dee. D ba boom. Da da dee do. D ba dee. D diggy dee diggy dee dee. D di da da dee da. Ba do dee. Dee ba dee dee ba da da ba da da. Okay, so I probably overthought that last one there. In fact, temporarily I forgot what key am I playing in, and I just remember. Okay, I'm in B flat. Okay, but hopefully you get the idea. So it's same concept. You can start off with 1 key, playing that rhythm, and then gradually build until you can play um, over chord progression using multiple notes. Okay, so uh, I've done this idea on 1 chord. Now I've done it over a chord progression. Now it's time to do this same idea on an actual song. It doesn't always have to be Autumn Leaves. I'm just using Autumn Leaves for this example, but you could use any. And you also don't have to stick to my rhythms either. It's the rhythms that just come to your mind from your imagination. Then feel free to play those. So let's do Autumn Leaves. So Autumn Leaves is this song here. So I'm playing that song just so that you internalize the melody and just so that you hear the chord progression. And now, without even overthinking this, I'm going to be playing notes mostly from that B flat major scale. The notes of the B flat major scale are the same notes as the G minor scale. So that's a G natural minor scale. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be using mostly. Because I'm in improvisation mode, who knows? I might temporarily digress, but bear with me. I'm going to try for most of the time to just stick to those particular pitches so that I focus on rhythm. Okay, so same idea over autumn leaves. I'll sing one bar, play it, I'll rest. Resting, don't forget, that is possibly the most important thing we should be doing. Okay, so here goes nothing. So I'm gonna start now. Da da dee da. Dee doo da. Dee da da. Dee da da. Dee doo. Ta ta ta. Ba da dee te. Dee da da da. Da da dee da. Da da dee da. Da da da. Da 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 da. Da da dee. Da da da. Dee da dee. Dee da da. Right. I'll probably watch in the playback. Maybe sometimes, I'm sure most times I was playing exactly what I had sung. And then a few times I was probably playing something slightly different. But you know what? When you're practicing improvisation, that's all fine. That's all fine. As long as you're getting it right more times than not, then you're going to be fine. Okay. So you don't want to, I mean, none of these are biblical concepts necessarily where thou shalt surely play exactly what you've said or thou shalt surely die. You know, it's not that kind of vibe. So, um, I would consider this, and I've called it step one because what I'm doing here is I'm practicing just the general idea or the general concept of hearing a rhythm and then playing it. But that's all being guided by resting. So what I don't want to do is to just be playing and playing and playing and playing. That's kind of like being around a person who just talks and talks and talks nonstop, which I'm probably doing right now. But this is a different context. You know, like elsewhere, you'd be like, "Oh my goodness, please just stop." So um, I'm now going to go to step number 2 because this can help you develop a balanced practice routine. So you don't just want to do this and nothing else. So I'll do this and dedicate some time to it, and I'll show you how I'll put it together into a structured practice plan just now. But here I was just showing you how you might practice this idea. Okay, so you practice this first on one note. In fact, these three contexts. So, oh yeah, I've just changed it. Right. So over a B flat, 2 5 1, and then autumn leaves. Okay, so we've got those three contexts to practice just randomly picking a rhythmic idea and then playing it. Okay. Um, the next thing that I would like to do, instead of just randoms, I like that I've used that word random so randomly. Uh, what I would now like to do is to be more specific. So what I've done is I've written out a few rhythm. I've written 3 rhythms, 3 specific ones. So here is uh, the first rhythm that I wrote down. Ta 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 ta. I've probably played this in my improvisation, but what I can do is say to myself, okay, I'm going to play this rhythm over my one chord. So if you've got a backing track, great. If you've got something like iReal Pro or Band in a Box, you can just type your chord there, whatever the chord is. It might be a major chord, it could be anything. In this example, I just happen to be using B flat. Okay. So you might want to go, what's this? Ta, 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 rest. And then that second measure, I've actually left it for you to actually rest. So here goes something. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I might try this on different notes of the scale. 2, 3, 4. I might try combining different pitches now. 2, 3, 4. I like that. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so what I'm essentially doing is just by playing random pitches, but using this specific rhythm, I'm actually getting a variety of melodic ideas. And for now, I mean, for the sake of this particular lesson, I've said 1 bar phrases. I mean, they could be 2. This is just giving you um, just a general framework to practice and to build your own practice plan. But that's just an example of a rhythm, you know. So I've practiced it over 1 chord. What if I do it over 2-5-1? What if I do it over 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4? I'll start with simple pitches and then I might add 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm not even really thinking about, okay, what pitches am I playing? I am literally just playing that specific rhythm, but over the notes of a B flat scale. And I'm playing a 2-5-1 progression. And it already sounds more interesting than when I did it on just the 1 chord. So now, when I take the same idea and do it over autumn leaves, I'm sure life's going to get interesting. I'm going to try that actually. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Rest 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I've been practicing this specific rhythm, random pitches over autumn leaves, and I'm already hearing that life's getting interesting. So there's example number 1. So you might say in your practice session, you can write out any rhythm of your choice and just force yourself to stick to that specific rhythm so that you're not focusing on pitch, you're focusing on rhythm. Here is another rhythm that I would like us to try out. So, tita tita. Again, you can practice this in 3 contexts: 1 chord, chord progression, or autumn leaves. I am actually going to do this on a 2-5-1 first. Maybe I'll do it on a 2-5-1 in the minor key. Again, things like 2-5-1s in major keys, 2-5-1s in minor keys. These are things that uh, I teach in the 90-day program. Okay, so in case you've just joined us and you're like, what on earth is this guy talking about? we are learning about the importance of rhythm in improvisation. Okay. And initially, we were practicing some random rhythmic ideas over one chord. We practiced those random rhythmic ideas over a chord progression, and then we practiced them over autumn leaves. Now we are practicing specific rhythms. Okay, so this is the second rhythm that that we're practicing over. Okay, so ta ta ti ta. So I'm gonna go. Let me start on any note. So 2, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. So this is different from that first root. Ta ta ti da. Now we've got ti 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 ti. Okay, and we could do this over autumn leaves. If we want to, maybe over autumn leaves, I might do this one. Oh my goodness, this. What was I thinking when I put this? Right, so I've just made life difficult for myself here. So a slightly fancier rhythm. One, ti 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 ta. I actually love that. One, pa ti 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 ta. One, a strawberry tea da. A strawberry milkshake or something like that. Now I feel like having one. Anyway, so I'm going to play this over a 2-5-1 progression in the key of B flat, actually. So, ba dee ba da dee da. 2, 3, 4. A strawberry milkshake. Oops, I was now playing autumn leaves instead of just the 2-5-1, but I hope you get the idea. And isn't it interesting that I've said a strawberry milkshake? So rhythm is actually in our everyday language, you know. So when it comes to using your imagination, whatever comes to mind, you could even say some random words. I need chocolate. Okay. I've no idea, or whatever. In fact, I've said I've no idea because I'm thinking I've no idea why I keep referring to food. Right. Maybe it's just that time of day. So one, ta ba da ta ta. I'm going to do that over a 2-5-1 using the notes of my B flat major scale. Here goes nothing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do one note. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Oops, 1, 2. That's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. I like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so using that specific rhythm, you could play that idea on one note. In fact, it was my class on Saturday that I was telling as well. I gave them an example of, in fact, I showed them a Bud Powell solo over rhythm changes, where he starts with just the coolest rhythm I've ever heard on just one note. That's how he starts. So I love that. What a way to start a solo. So never underestimate the power of rhythm. Rhythm, in my opinion, way more important than the note that you play. Okay, so we started with random rhythms, then oopsie daisy. We started with random rhythms, then we went on to these 3 specific rhythms. What you could then do in your practice session is you can say, okay, I am now going to mix these 3 rhythms freely. So I've worked on each one specifically. What would happen if some point maybe I say, okay, let me start with that second one. Okay, now let me go to the first one. Okay, now let me go to the third one. Let me repeat the third one. We're actually playing. Okay. So you actually have to have a playful spirit and playful attitude when you're otherwise you're doing piano and you're not playing the piano or your instrument, actually, whatever instrument that might be. And it's always a good idea to play your instrument. So over autumn leaves, I'm going to mix these three rhythms. Guess what? If I play one wrong, not the end of the world, right? Or if I play something that's not the end of the world. Okay. If I play maybe one of those eighth notes slightly longer, not the end of the world, right? The goal is to be thinking and playing rhythmically, but these specific rhythms are what I want to try and stick to as much as possible. So let's see how disciplined I am. Okay. When you give yourself these restrictions, like I find for myself, it is very difficult. But oh my goodness, it is very rewarding. Okay, let's give this a go and see. Sata, tim, tira, and then tiba, tiba. A strawberry milkshake. Okay, here we go. One, two. In fact, I'll play a little bit of the melody, then I'm going to start picking these. Now I'm going to start. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3. So I started with the first one, went to the second one, back to the first one. The second one. I'm going to experiment now. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Try and figure out which of them I'm playing. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so as you can see, there's no specific order in which I'm playing these rhythms. I think, let me just pat myself on the back. I think I'll watch the replay, but I think I actually managed to stick to these three rhythms and nothing else, which for me is a big deal. Okay, because normally, imagination takes over and I just start playing. Okay, but if I think rhythm, I'm likely to get good at playing rhythmically. And don't worry if other areas of your playing suffer, or maybe you start thinking, this is sounding robotic. Maybe it is for now, but the more you do this, overall, the the more rhythmic you're going to sound. In fact, I'm going to show you by the end of this video how you can actually do that. Okay, so we've done random rhythms, and now we've done specific rhythms. We've started mixing them up and actually playing music. Now, here is a good way for you to practice and to put all this information together into a meaningful way. So, um, by the way, if anyone's got any questions, one thing that I am absolutely shockingly bad at is multitasking. So, throughout this live, I have not looked at one question or one comment. But let me just take this moment to say hello, everybody, in case I haven't said hello to you. And please, again, feel free to tell me which part of the world you're from. Um, and like I told people in the beginning, I'm from Zimbabwe. I'm currently in Zambia. Um, although some people think I'm from Mars or some other random place, but this is where I'm from. And so nice to connect and to learn from each other. So I will look at questions. In fact, I think, because this is my very first live, I'm actually thinking that questions that come from these lives, I can actually address them and do another live where it's actually a question and answer. Uh, and maybe where I'm not necessarily using a presentation like what I'm doing today, I'll probably be able to answer your questions in real time. Okay, but for today, have mercy on me. Right, so here's a good daily practice plan. Okay, so I would suggest, after having learned everything that we discussed today, suppose this is I guess I think I might have been working with a 30-minute or a 20-minute practice session here. We'll figure out at the end. Okay. Uh, I would go first 5 minutes. Um, I would just be playing the rhythms that I'm hearing and then playing them back using that approach of sing, play, rest, and then rinse and repeat. So over and over. Okay. So my first 5 minutes of my practice session, that's what I'm going to do. And it's up to me whether to do this over one chord or over a chord progression or over an actual song. So you don't have to practice in these three contexts every single day because you're practicing the idea of rhythm. It's going to, all these things will work themselves out. So, because you can't fit those three things in 5 minutes either. So, today might be a day to actually just hear these rhythms and play them over autumn leaves or over a 2-5-1 progression in the key of B. So whatever you decide, you can stick with that. And then what I'll do after that is I might say to myself, right, because this is the more important part where I really now need to focus. It's not just, I'm dealing with another side of my brain altogether. So first I was on the right side of the brain. I hope it's the right side. That's the right side of the brain, where I was just creating. And now the left. Actually, that's your right. Okay, who cares? So whatever, you're going from one side of the brain, the creative one, to the thinking one. So here you are really thinking about what you're doing because the notes are written. So these don't have to be my rhythms. You can literally just write your own rhythms. Just the other day, in fact, I wrote these are actual rhythms that I probably did. I either did these with my class on Saturday or with another student, but and I think these are different. Well, this one was there, I think, today. So anyway, you can use, there's endless possibilities. So any rhythm that you want. I'd probably advise you start off with simple and then progress to complicated. But you know what? Music doesn't have to be complicated. I love simple. Okay. So 5 minutes, you're just creating your own rhythms, playing them back. And then for 10 minutes, you're now saying, right, let me work on only these specific rhythms. And I've said written rhythms, but really the whole point is they are pre-planned rhythms. So if you're not into music theory, you can't write music, that's fine. As long as you just tell yourself, I'm playing this particular rhythm, then we're all good. Once I've done that, what I'll do is I would go back to what I did earlier. So I would go back to hearing and playing rhythms again. Okay. So if I'm to put this in a practical sense, so let's say today is Sunday, the 21st of March 2035. This is maybe what I'm practicing. So in my first 5 minutes, I'm practicing this over a 2-5-1 progression in the key of B flat. I might say I'm just hearing rhythms. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. In fact, let me sing the rhythm first. Diga da, diga da, da ba do, di di da di, di da ba da da. Okay, so that's what I can do that for 5 minutes, and then in the next 5 minutes, I might say, what have I got here? Da 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 da. So that's written. I'm going to stick to that. So I might go 2, 3, 4. I'm now on autumn leaves. 2, 3, 4. Okay. So that's a specific rhythm. And I'll do that for 10 minutes. And for the next 5 minutes, I say, okay, let me go back to that thing. That was fun. Dee, dee, da, 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 ba, dee, da, da. Right. So as you can see, I'm playing and I'm enjoying it. I'd encourage you to do the same. Have fun with this stuff, guys. Uh, so I've got 5, 10. Okay, so 20 minutes gone. Here's what I'll do with the remainder of my practice session. I would just play whatever I want to play. So I'm not even thinking rhythm at this point. I'm just like, I'm gonna play, whether it's over one chord, a chord progression, or autumn leaves, I'm just gonna play whatever I want to play. Right. So no rules. No one's gonna tell me what to do. So I might just go. So it'll be interesting for me to listen back to this because I am quite convinced that because for the last 40, 50 minutes or whatever of me talking to you guys and talking about rhythm, this improvisation is probably one of the most rhythmic ones that I've played, and I'm not probably necessarily playing the things I usually play. So you can see in just a short period, the playing can actually transform. Okay. And I have no music around me or pre-planned ideas. I just literally made that up, and that is what we call improvisation. All right. So I'm about to wrap all this up. So as I mentioned earlier, this stuff has come from or has been inspired by my last lesson with people who are on my 90-day program. And as I was saying, we're on day 60. I've forgotten day 60. I think it's 64, if I'm not mistaken, something like that, 63, 64. So the point is, in the 90-day program, we do things like this. So please feel free to check that out. I'll be talking more about this 90-day program at a free jazz workshop that I'll be hosting on Zoom on Saturday, the 2nd of August. And that's at 5:30. Uh, this is CAT, means Central African time. So remember, I'm in Zambia, so that's my time. So maybe what you might just do is to Google, depending on where you live. So you might say 5:30 CTA time in um, Greenland, or wherever you are, okay, or in Alaska. Okay, so do that and then you'll figure out how our times match. If you're not sure, feel free to email me and then uh, we can work that out. Okay, so I'm going to give you info on the live coaching that I do and the 90-day program. I'll give you more detail about its actual content and how that all works. So this free workshop is available. So it won't be here on YouTube. It will be on Zoom, and it's only available to people who are on my email list. So the people on my email list have either completed one of my forms before. If you go to the description of this video, you'll find a link that takes you to the free jazz workshop. In fact, there's two links there, so you might want to be sure which one you're sending to. So there's a link for the free jazz workshop, but you'll also come across a link to the 90-day program because possibly you've seen me before and maybe we've even gone back and forth on Zoom or we've had a call on email and you're already interested in the 90-day program. The link to the 90-day program is also in that description. I hope. Otherwise, I'm going to put it on just after this video. So feel free to join me. And speaking of the 90-day program, so remember the workshop is on Saturday, the 2nd of August. And that's just for about an hour or so. But the 90-day program that starts on Saturday, the 6th of September. I'll be starting with a new cohort, um, and I'm looking forward to as many people as possible. Again, I'll share things about payment and so forth at the free workshop in August. Uh, the sign up link to the 90-day program is also in the description, like I mentioned, um, as is the sign up link to the free workshop. Okay. If the link is not working for some reason, feel free to email me at wellroundedkeyboardplayer@gmail.com. If you have not subscribed to my channel already, please feel free to do so that whenever I put up a new instructional video, you can watch. I'm trying to give people as much value as possible through these things. So please do feel free to check that out. And again, if you've got any questions, please put those in the chat. I will look at them, and I hope to address them in my next live session. But you know what? I'm actually going to get rid of that screen so that you can actually see my existence. Pennsylvania. Okay, trying to multitask, which is not a good idea. Right. But I've just seen Hildy from Pennsylvania. Hi. Okay, and if you join in future, please feel free to say hi. So, guys, thank you so much, and I hope I'm not preaching too much, but hopefully you can either rewatch this with your video and actually try these ideas out. So that's really where you'd make real progress. So you won't really improve by just listening to me, but I think the more you do, so listen and do. So please don't be my followers who just hear. Please be followers who do the things I'm recommending, and I guarantee you will see results in your playing. So thanks so much, guys. I'm glad that I've finally done my first live. I actually enjoy this. So hopefully I'll see you sometime soon for another one. All right. Take care and fare thee well, folks.